This is Tech Talk Detroit with Brian Spurgeon and Chuck Lobert. Tech Talk Detroit brings you the latest in tech news and Detroit happenings every week.
All right, well, welcome to Tech Talk Detroit. We're happy to have you with us again. My name is Chuck, and as always, we've got Brian here with us. How you doing, Brian?
Good as usual. It's busy with work, a lot going on. Excited to talk today, though, and also finally looks like we might be breaking the weather barrier a bit this week,
right?
Back and forth, but yeah, very happy for that.
Finally get some 70s and 80s. Maybe get out there and golf or something. Yeah,
I've been out a few times, but it's a lot less than I'd like to be. So
yeah,
time's really getting out there. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So what we wanted to talk about today, we're into April now. The vaccines are becoming widely available. So we're starting to see a lot more companies that are starting to bring staff back into the office. And a lot of times what's resulting is this hybrid work environment where you've got some people that are working in the office, some people that are working from home or wherever they may be. And really, if you listen to the experts out there, this is probably going to be kind of the new way of doing business moving forward. So we wanted to talk about what that looks like, what that hybrid work environment looks like, what you should think about from a safety perspective, from security, collaboration, how to handle if you want to rotate staff, different things like that, all of the thoughts that should go into if you're starting to bring people back into the office, to do so securely so that you don't see a breakdown in productivity, because everybody's kind of gotten used now to working from home. We talked about a year ago about how to get everybody working from home quickly. And at that point, really, the thought was you get people working from home for as long as we needed to, and then everybody would be coming back to the office. But that's probably not going to be the case for a lot of businesses. Some businesses are selling their offices altogether and just working from home now. A lot, I think, are going to more of this hybrid work environment where there's going to be maybe a rotation of staff for a while, or even permanently have some people working from home and some in the office. So we wanted to kind of circle back around on this. And now that you have people working from home and you're starting to potentially bring all or some of them back to the office, what are the things that you need to think about? So that's what the topic for today. And we figured we would start with the safety piece of it. Obviously, you got to look at the COVID protocols and make sure you're following CDC guidelines around 6-foot separation, masks when you're not at personal work areas, things like that. Beyond that, now that vaccinations are widely available, for those that want vaccines, some companies are requiring them, some are incentivizing them, some are just kind of staying out of it and letting the staff decide what they want to do. And really, the big thing, I think, comes down to bringing everybody back safely, but also at a comfort level, right? You want people to come back, you want them to be efficient, you want them to be productive, and the only way they're going to do that is if they're comfortable coming back as well. So, one thing that you could do there is even doing a poll around to the staff to kind of get what their ideas are around coming back, what their thoughts are, what their comfort level is, different things like that. But really, from a safety perspective, those are probably the big things to think about. But what we really wanted to kind of focus on today was more around the security, the collaboration, so that you can make sure that even though people are working, some in the office, some from home, that they're working productively and efficiently. So, Brian, when you think about staff coming back and maybe half being in the office, half being home, so half maybe protected by a business firewall, half not, all of these different things that come into play. What are the security measures that maybe we started to do a year ago as part of getting people working from home, but that we really need to make sure are in place and that are solidified now?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the security, it's a lot of the stuff we've talked about previously. And if you go back a year ago, at this time we would have been, a little over a month into lockdown here in Michigan, the beginning of the pandemic. And I think the focus of the conversation then was very much, keeping the business alive. How do I transition from the office to getting everybody to be able to even work remote? And security, I don't want to say it was an afterthought, but certainly it was not the main focus. There wasn't the time to sit there and develop a very in-depth plan and analyze your business and see where gaps are and stuff. It was, you were talking about, can my business run or not? So I think when you fast forward now to present day, based on the information you said, a lot of the IT leaders, they believe that the work from home is going to be a permanent strategy that's implemented to some capacity. And I think now security is definitely a concern, because we're winding down, hopefully, towards the end of this thing, getting closer to normal, whatever that means to you. And I think that it is, you do have to look at what is our security posture. But a couple of the things that we've hit on, that I'll always hit on, is going to be the multi-factor authentication for any of your cloud apps. That would include your email, your Office 365, if you're using G Suite, if you're using any kind of remote desktop. Absolutely, MFA is a must. It's something that we go through with all our clients. We require MFA. And ultimately, that's going to be one of your biggest tools to prevent any kind of, catastrophic exploit. So MFA, everybody knows what it is. We don't need to get too detailed into it, but it is absolutely key. I think also too is VPN. So when you have all these people from different home networks, the thing to consider and think about is, it's one thing when it's in your office and you have your nice Sonic wall or Cisco router and firewall. You've got the nice network infrastructure that gives you visibility into what's going in and out of the network. You've got the policies and the security stuff to block things from trying to attack your business. When the users are working from home, hate to say it, but the Comcast modem and that you get for $5 a month isn't going to quite do the same job. So from that standpoint, I think that's what you have to keep in mind, is the security of these home offices is nowhere near that of the business, and the business is now extending into your employees' homes. So you have to do things that are a little different to accommodate that. And I think VPN is definitely one of those areas where you can bolster some of that security. So in theory, what you're doing is requiring that user at home to connect to your business office, and they're working out of your business network as opposed to their home network. It does allow you to get that visibility through your firewall, through your network traffic of what's coming in and out. And I would absolutely implement the VPN strategy if you're using like traditional file shares and things like that. The other big thing that I don't think we've hit on too much, but is an EDR platform. It's extended detection and response, and basically what it is a very beefed up antivirus program from what we're traditionally used to. So, the antiviruses, again, is another good front line to pick up the majority of the known threats that are out there. But just like anything, there's a lot of unknown threats, and every day there's new stuff coming out. There's variants of old threats, and ultimately, no antivirus solution is completely foolproof. So what happens a lot of times is you'll get a threat that gets past your antivirus, and beyond that standpoint, because it doesn't recognize it doesn't know what it is, that threat then has the ability to mature and determine what the actual attack is going to be. So with these EDR platforms, what they're doing is, if the threat gets past it, they're looking at that activity that's out of the norm. So they're seeing these threats that live on the network for some time, and they're able to pick up on that and lock, either isolate the workstation or the user accounts from the rest of the network. But it is, I think, a very robust tool that all organizations should at least look at and see if it makes sense for you. And then I think the other things that we've hit on too is going to be training. Again, your employees or your front line, that's usually where most of the breakdown in your security comes from. You can put all the policies in place, but you can't control what your end users click, what your end users open, and ultimately training your staff there's not enough of time that you can spend to do that. I think that's key, and it should be a part of any business's strategy moving forward. And the last thing is the mobile device management. There's a lot of different reasons why you use mobile device management. I think in the past we've hit on, protecting your employee data or your company data from employees that might be taking it and leaving. You can use it to audit policies on your workstations. If users lose or their laptops are stolen, you can lock them down and wipe them. And those are all absolutely good reasons why you should have that, and they pertain to security. However, the other advantage I think you get with the work from home is you can now restrict which type of workstations are accessing your company data. So with the MDM in place, you can say it has to be either a company asset, or if you allow a bring your own device policy, this will allow you to enforce that. So the user's home computer, if that's what you're allowing them to connect on, you're at least making sure they have to have an up-to-date virus, the Windows is patched currently, and whatever else you want to require in order to access your data. That's going to be key, and I think that's something that everybody should have in place as well. Anytime you hear work from home or remote, you should have a mobile device managed policy to help back that up.
Yeah, so there was a couple things that I thought of as you were talking there too. One of the things that you mentioned kind of at the beginning of talking about the security was a gap analysis, and kind of looking at what you have today, taking all of these different things like MFA, VPN, EDR, training, all of these things, and kind of putting them, say, across the top of a spreadsheet, and then comparing where you're at today to do you have these things in place or not? And that's kind of a quick way to do a gap analysis. And from there, you can start to build a plan to be able to shore up any areas that you find that maybe you should have that you don't have today. And that's kind of a good starting point to see, all right, am I where I need to be today? If not, what do I need to do to get to where I need to be?
Yeah, and I think, to add to that, to give somebody a starting point, I would look at the NIST framework. They have their 5 pillars. It's easy to find and look up. But ultimately, the categories you want to look at is going to be identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And it's as simple as just building out those 5 pillars and taking your security, your security solution as a whole, and just matching it up to all of those pillars. Some of your products, you want to make sure there's some overlap between pillars, but ultimately the key is to have at least a solution under each one of those categories. And that's a great starting point for sure.
Yeah, and if you don't have the security expertise on staff, you can always work with an outsourced managed service provider, security provider that can help you with that type of stuff too. And the other thing I thought of, as we talked about at the beginning, how the weather is changing, we're starting to get a little bit more warm. I think something that we're going to see a bit more of even this year than we did last year is people even working while they're traveling, working from campsites and stuff like that. We've been watching a show on Discovery Plus about people looking for RVs, and that's one of the things you start to see people that are looking for now is a work area on their RV, because it's going to become more and more where you might be able to control certain things within somebody's home and the connection there. Some companies might even buy little firewalls for people's homes or something like that. But now how are you handling things if they're working outside of that home now, if they're traveling, as things start to open up more, if they start going on vacation or if they go camping or whatever it is, and now they're on these public insecure networks connecting to your data. That's really where now even more you need to make sure that you've got all of these types of things in place so that you can, regardless of where they're connecting from, what kind of connection they're coming from, they can still connect, they can still work, and they can still do so securely.
No, that's a great point. I know like VRBO and Airbnb, they've hit on that hard in terms of, people, you're remote, so why not work remote from somewhere nice? That's a great point. And yeah, I think also too, to top that off is with restaurants and cafes and stuff being open this go around, you're going to see a lot of people going to those public networks. And those are a great spot for, attackers to take advantage of your employees. They know that there's a bunch of people connecting to a public Wi-Fi and it's unsecure, and it's a playground for them to figure out what they can get into. So.
Yeah, as we've talked about before, those bad actors, they're called bad actors for a reason. And now what they do is they try to look for any area where they can kind of insert themselves and take advantage of you. So now that might be people that are just trying to get out of the house, people that are working out of a cafe or something like you said, or people that are finally taking the chance to be able to travel a little bit. And now they're going to try to take advantage of that to be able to compromise your data. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. It's definitely something you want to look at. Security is going to be a big part of this, whether it's work from home strategy, hybrid work, whatever it is. It's got to be a big part of it for sure. And then the next thing that we wanted to touch on was really the collaboration and how do you keep people working collaboratively and efficiently and productively, even though some of them might be working from home, some of them might be working at the office, some of them, who knows, might be working at a campsite or something. So how do you keep that collaboration going? And, what are your thoughts around that, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's key. I think, we've gotten used to doing the meetings. So whether it's, Zoom meetings or Teams meetings, obviously that's kind of become a pivotal part of getting through this last year. At least having some type of feeling of being in a room together and working on something. I think that's a big part of it. So, we're big Microsoft Teams fans, largely because it integrates with everything else that we have going. And I think also with, a lot of the security stuff I mentioned earlier, it's very easy to apply that security to our Teams tenant. So from that standpoint, I think it's secure and robust. But ultimately, I think, if you haven't looked at SharePoint, that should probably be the next focus. I know a lot of people are using, the cloud file shares. That was a thing of, 4 or 5 years ago. Everybody wanted to get rid of the traditional file server and go to a cloud platform like Box or Anchor or Dropbox, where you've moved your company data into that, and now everybody can access it from anywhere. And I think SharePoint is taking that concept and adding on to that. So where, yes, you're able to distribute your files everywhere with those other traditional cloud file solutions, SharePoint's going to give you the collaboration that you need. So, when you have a company share and you have a spreadsheet that, leadership's working on for budgeting or whatever it may be, you're not waiting for other people to make their change, update it, check it in, notify the team, next person takes it. It's very much, we're all in there at the same time. Let's just get in there and get our stuff updated. We're all looking at the same thing. If you and I are in the same spreadsheet at the same time, Chuck, I could see exactly what spreadsheet you were clicked on, and and I think that's kind of the next level that you get when you go to SharePoint. So I think if you're a business that isn't currently utilizing that should be definitely where the next focus is, and see if that makes sense for you.
And I think, again, the integration between everything else that we use, so most companies these days are using Microsoft Office, whether it's standalone or through Office 365, Microsoft 365. If you're using Teams, like all of these different tools just kind of tie in together and really become a seamless way to work. So if you're on SharePoint, but you spend your day in Teams because, maybe that's your phone system, or maybe that's just your collaboration platform, you can bring all of your SharePoint data into Teams. So it's really just kind of ties everything together and helps us to be able to work so much more efficiently and productively, I think, regardless of where we're at and what device we're on, because there's clients for SharePoint, clients for Teams, web access for SharePoint, where you can access it from, I'll use it sometimes on my iPad, my iPhone, or, obviously my Surface device as well. So, it's very accessible and easy to use. That's the topic we wanted to kind of touch on today was, around that hybrid work environment. As we mentioned, a lot of people are talking about how that's really going to be how we run our businesses moving forward. So it's something that we're all going to get used to if we aren't already. More and more people, it's going to be something that they're looking for, I think, as they're out there looking for jobs. So it's certainly going to probably be a point where, a point of kind of come work for us because we have that hybrid work environment versus maybe if your competitor doesn't. So, it's definitely something to look at, but obviously we want to make sure that we do so safely, that we do so from a secure standpoint, and make sure that we can keep that collaboration and productivity up at the top level. We appreciate you coming and spending a little bit more time with us today, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Interact with Tech Talk Detroit at techtalkdetroit.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.